Hey guys, Stefan here with DroneCentral.com. Just basically wanted to wrap up. We did an unboxing of this CX-20 and some of you would actually like to see how it's put together. So I'm going to do this fairly quick. I'm going to get all the boxes out and I'll start working and putting this thing together so you actually have a quick idea how easy and simple it is. Everything out of the way. I'm actually going to put the camera support away since I will not be putting that on. Because this specific unit does belong to somebody, and we are doing a gimbal install like this one that's right here, which I will demonstrate because it is pretty cool. Okay. And I will not be charging the battery for you. Plug this into the wall. This goes into the side. And this yellow end actually is what connects to the quadcopter. This other port actually connects to the charger. When I first saw this, I was actually confused because I'm used to the conventional, you use the battery, you burn it out, you actually go ahead and plug it back into the charger and you charge it up. So I didn't understand why there was actually two different contacts. This is what they call balanced charging because there are multiple cells, and to be exact, this one actually has 3 cells that when they charge this battery, the balanced charger makes sure that each cell are charged equally, which means that when you are flying, you're getting maximum power and you're getting maximum flight time. At the same time, when you're wearing out the battery or you're draining the battery, it actually helps the battery to drain equally. Because once, I believe it is, I believe if you drop below 11.1 volt, you actually then trigger the warning on the quadcopter or the CX-20 that you're now running into a low battery, which gives you approximately, and I say approximately, give or take on the weather, the location that you are, but give or take 2 minutes of flight time. So hopefully you're not too far away, and it's not really windy where you're going to be fighting against the wind to get back, but basically you need to land this as soon as possible. Now, let's get to the good stuff. Here, and here, obviously, we have the remote control. Have our power, our throttle, up and down, roll, and then you actually have forward, backwards, bank right, bank left, And these are 2 additional servos, which for this particular client of ours will have the same setup here where there's going to be a gimbal with the camera underneath. And what it does is allows the controller to pivot the camera which way they would like to. And now let's remember, this stuff has GPS, it has the return home feature, it will lock into place. Let's say if you go to a specific height and you have it into a neutral position, meaning you're not climbing or you're not descending, and you flip on GPS, you're pretty much going to be sitting put. And you can actually sit there and literally adjust the camera the way that you want it and get the shot that you're looking for. Or lock into the position that you want with the camera facing, I don't know, the beach. And then all you're starting to do is a flyby where you're catching the whole side of the beach, which is really neat. Now, we have our legs for support. We actually have our 4 screws. There's 2 screws for each support. And for those of you that are purchasing these from us ready to fly, and with all the components already added in, what you're seeing is pretty much what takes place. We test everything, we take good care of everything, we make sure that everything is done properly, but once you receive your equipment or your drone, you will basically have to keep an eye out. Maintain and maintenance is key. It just doesn't mean that since we've installed the gimbal, the camera, and all this, you don't have to worry about anything else. You always want to check and make sure that these nuts are tight. You don't want to lose the propeller. You don't want a catastrophe to happen. Yes, there's a learning curve, but if you're not a novice, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to get my little fancy schmancy tools that actually come with it, but I'm simply going to be using this at the moment for the blades. And I'm going to flip this over. And I'm actually going to give myself a little bit of a prop here so I'm about level. And I'm actually going to be putting in my legs. Oops, wrong way. It's very simple, plug and play. They go down. One of these guys. And here on the other side you're going to see these guys, which are the antennas. They actually get tucked in the inside of the railing. So they're not just going to be dangling all over the place. Okay, you want to make sure that these are tight, and you also want to make sure that that you put it together, or a friend puts it together. You always want to kind of revisit to make sure that they haven't loosened over time. I would literally say, as silly as it sounds, it's kind of like a pre-flight checklist, just like what the pilots would do on their airplane. You know, if they don't do that, I'm sure that the safety aspect would be very different than it is, you know, today. Or I'm sure there'd be more accidents. If you're using this thing a lot and you're flying around a lot, always make sure you go through, make sure your components are solid, they're tightened well. and that way you're just gonna minimize your risk of damage or a catastrophe to happen. I saw a video on YouTube where a guy was flying around and he lost a propeller and the thing just rolled. And it came down hard. And it came down really, really hard that this thing was kaput. It was done. And in the video, he's upset that the unit actually rolled and pretty much tanked and smashed into the ground. And after listening to the video, he was basically blaming the manufacturer that they had done a poor quality on the unit and so on and so forth. And in the background, I'm hearing before the crash, the warning is beeping that the battery is going low. And obviously he had not read all the owner's manual. He did not know obviously the unit as well as he should have. And sure enough, the beeping had been going on for about 2 minutes, and shortly thereafter the unit just ran out of battery and it rolled. So and the whole time I thought a propeller had actually fallen off. So I'm saying, hey, the guy should have checked his propellers, make sure these nuts are tight. Wasn't the case. He had been flying and the CX-20 had been beeping. Hey buddy, you gotta bring me back, you gotta bring me back. My battery's starting to run low, And he's doing laps and laps and laps and laps, and sure enough, it ran out of battery. So now here we are. There are different colors because obviously your blades are supposed to go in certain ways, but don't be alarmed because I know at the beginning everything looks the same. There's a little bit of a trick or a cheat sheet, if you would. On the actual, or each arm where each motor are, you're actually going to have a direction where the blade, which direction is supposed to be rotating. If the unit is facing forward, this would be motor 1, motor 2, 3, and 4. So basically, motor 1 and 2 are running the same way, or counterclockwise. 3 and 4 are actually clockwise. So the blade, the way it's actually probably a little bit easier to see with the orange because the white is a little different. Basically, the way that the blade turns in, or the direction it's supposed to go, a trick is the section of the blade that is going up. Basically, it's almost like a snow plow. As you push, your snow actually starts at the bottom and builds up and it starts rolling over. You're plowing it in. It's the same thing with the wind. When you're pushing the wind, it's allowing it to go up. So I want basically the up part of this blade to go up. So if this, forgot to take the nut off. If this motor is turning clockwise, I should say counterclockwise, I want it to scoop up. So this is going counterclockwise. Let me speed this up. See here it's facing down, so that's not the right blade. Going counterclockwise, I want it to pick up. And you'll notice on the blades that are going clockwise, your screw actually is going backwards. That's because the force of the blade would actually loosen the nut, which you don't want that to happen. I've actually heard guys putting a little bit of Loctite in there to ensure that the blade doesn't go taking off on you. I actually put them fairly tight, and these are not like the bearings on the wheel of a car or some of the RC cars that if you over tighten them, you're actually tightening the motor where it's restricting the actual rotation or the RPMs. Not at all. These are brushless motors, which you're basically free spinning. So anyways, you're actually getting the picture here. So I'm going to tighten these guys up. So motor 1. As you can see, I give it a good snug. Another one right here. And since this thing has not flown yet, I would actually make sure that after the first flight that you actually double check that everything is secure, including the base. So this is it. This is the finished product. As you can see, this didn't really take much to put together. But let me show this with you. And by the way, these little antennas, instead of leaving dangling, I would personally, and which I do on all of the units that go out from here, from us at Drone Central, we actually tuck these in and we put a small tie wrap. So they're not in the way, nothing can rip them out where we actually lose signal or anything like that. So I'm going to put this guy on the side. Or actually, let's just trade. And I'm going to show you something a little bit out there. Now we have our high visibility blades on here, so for during the day. We also have the shields, which protects a lot of the blades. So God forbid you have a little bit of a tip or a rollover and your blade catches the ground, you're going to protect them with these shields. And we can actually do the shields in any of the colors that you want. I'm actually going to power this up, and as you can see below, there's already a camera and a gimbal that's mounted underneath. And I just want you guys to take a quick look at this, and let's get this thing fired up. I would not recommend that you fire this thing up indoors, so I will repeat, do not do this at home. If you're going to do so, take the blades out, because if for whatever reason, interference, or you trip the remote on and this thing decides to go flying, somebody's going to get hurt. I like the risk factor, I guess. I don't know. There's nobody around here, so if there's anybody going to get hurt, it's going to be me, and shame on me. But I've worked with these things way too much. So now, it's starting up. We have our lights underneath, but I don't know if you've noticed, the camera underneath has leveled. And this is actually a very popular thing. Now, not only can you control, and I'm not going to turn the remote on, you can control the roll or the pitch from these 2 additional channels that you have on your remote. But as you fly, she remains stable. So whichever way you're going, you always have a stable shot. And that we actually install ourselves because a lot of people are not comfortable with soldering. I get it. And if you screw up, yes, you've ruined the machine. So I guess they like to put the risk on us. But they're really, really neat little guys. And in the back, actually, since I have this lit up, the green blinking light is GPS. So we're indoors right now, so I'd be very surprised if it actually acquired GPS, but I have seen it where it does acquire GPS. And the red light indicates if the blades are engaged, meaning ready for flight, it would be solid. When it's blinking, it basically means it's disarmed. I could run the throttle up and down and they would not spin. So when you actually have a solid red light, that means you're go to fly. And also, I would not recommend flying until the GPS is locked. And if the CX-20 has not been flying, meaning you've been flying, you bring it back, you have another battery, you put it back in, you're going to notice that the GPS picks up right away every single time, very quick. If you have not flown it for a few hours, for a couple days, be patient. It can take up to 2 minutes, but that GPS is a lifesaver. Meaning you're out there, you lose control, transmission cuts. This thing will return home and literally come back down to where it originally started within feet or sometimes inches. It's amazing. And I'll be more than happy to show you the results outside. But that's gonna be it for me, guys. Like I said, I appreciate the support, questions, comments, anything. We're open to everything. If you'd like to see some of the products that are out there, again, we're making a lot of headway with a lot of the manufacturers and vendors and guys overseas that are putting these things together. So I would say there's a much broader market now. I saw the DJI Phantom for a while. $2,000 was not something that I could spend. I'm definitely a hobbyist, and I needed to find something that actually was very reliable, and that actually gave me somewhat very similar results of that same particular unit. So yeah, we basically got it. This unit and many others now are all coming out where you are able to do FPV. FPV meaning that you're able to actually see a live feed as you're flying. The camera itself transmit to a ground monitor or your viewing station where you actually see what the actual drone or plane or quad is seeing. GPS, telemetry, where you can create waypoint just like a car. Here's my map on my laptop and I want it to go here, here, here. Google Maps shows up. I give it my locations where it goes, and basically I want it to be at such and such height at each location. So if I know there are trees, I'm going to want to be at least 150 feet above, and so on and so forth. It'll calculate the amount of time, so I know I'm not pushing the limits of, you know, going out and not returning because there's not enough battery. All these things are now possible, not only with this CX-20, but with many more. But I have to say that, look, we're indoors and it's actually locking GPS. I'm very impressed with this unit. By far probably one of my favorites. And my brother will probably disagree because he is right now putting a custom unit together that he's having a blast with. So anyhow, any questions? But again, thanks for dropping by. Stefan with DroneCentral.com. Again, that's drone-central.com.